All right. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Today is November 15th. This is the zoning administrator hearing at 4 p.m. So this, if you haven't participated or seen how these meetings work, this is a very streamlined process of what our design review commission used to previously do for reviews of projects within the city. So I'll kind of give the general breakdown since today there are people clearly in the chamber for participation or support. So I assume there might be some people that have some comments on projects on the agenda. So with that being said, is each project that is before me as the zoning administrator for review and consideration. The staff planner will provide a high-level overview of the project. And then we will, if I have any questions, I will ask the questions. If I do not, whoever is here as the representative will be able to provide any additional information, and then the public can provide any comments, whether or not it's a comment of support or opposition. And then I will potentially ask any other questions and then render a decision on the final action of the application. So with that being said, though, this is a Zoomed broadcast meeting. I don't know if anybody has logged in. Regardless of if someone did log in or not, the council did take action at the last meeting in October. So if anybody does log in, they are not allowed to provide public comment virtually. They do have to be present in the chambers in order to provide that. Written correspondence has been received. I have reviewed that. If it was received after 2 p.m. though, it goes in as part of the administrative record. It is not considered or discussed as a part of this meeting as it was received late in the day. So with that, the first item is number 1, which is the zoning administrator minutes. Those minutes have been drafted and reviewed by myself as well as the deputy director. Those minutes are approved as presented. So with that, we're going to jump in and go to item number 2, which is for a project at 474 San Luis Avenue or San Luis Avenue. And yeah, Steve Golden is the project planner. So just provide a quick staff report.
So this project is 474 San Luis Avenue, which is on the south side of San Luis Avenue between El Monte and South Clark Avenue. The proposed project includes the demolition of the existing 1-story single-family house and construction of a new 2-story residence with 2,336 square feet on the first story, 1,488 square feet on the second story. The project also includes a basement. It's not included in the floor per code. And the project also includes a accessory dwelling unit or ADU on the first story, but it's not subject to design review. Just to note, the designer, in consultation with the arborist, the consulting arborist addressed potential impacts to a large oak tree on the right side yard area, and also addressed staff's concerns about potential impacts of the tree. The tree will be monitored throughout the construction as required by the conditions of approval. All the other detailed information is in the agenda report that was posted. And we did complete the public notification process, and staff has not received any public correspondence with regards to this proposed project. So staff is recommending approval of design review application SC 23-0001 for the construction of the new 2-story residence, subject to the listed findings and conditions of approval as outlined in the agenda report. And we're also recommending to find the project categorically exempt under the California Environmental Quality Act, pursuant to section 15303. Staff is requesting that the zoning administrator recognize a revision to condition number 2, which is basically an adoption of the plans that were submitted. Staff did receive a grading and drainage plan today. from the applicant. It addressed changes that staff requested. So we're just asking the zoning administrator to recognize the drainage and grading plan submitted to staff on November 15th, 2023. And with that, I conclude my brief summary and can answer any questions that the zoning administrator has or.
So I don't have any questions as, so with all of these projects, I have already reviewed the staff report. As well as, it would not be, recommended for approval, from staff if it wasn't consistent with. The standards within the code. So with that, is there anything that the project applicant, would like to mention at all? No, yep, and that's okay, you don't have to. So with that, is there anybody that's present in the chambers that specifically wants to speak towards item number 2 for the property at 474 San Luis Avenue? No, okay. So with that, the design review application, in consideration of also the modification to the grading plan, which was received earlier today. We are accepting of that, and that will be notated in the final approval for the project. And with that, this project is approved. So Steve and staff will prepare an approval letter, and you guys can enter into building plan check subsequently after that. Okay.
Great, thank you. So sorry, can I just interject? So there's 2 people in Zoom that have their hands up. So maybe could you reiterate that we can't?
So if there is a member of the public that has attended the Zoom meeting and logged in, the city council provided a report out at last night's meeting at November 14th. That we are no longer accepting public comments virtually via Zoom. You must be present in the chambers in order to provide that feedback. So if you had raised your hand in attendance to speak on the project, which is item number 2 for the property at 474 San Luis Avenue, the project has already been deemed complete or reviewed and approved today. So with that, you guys are good to go.
Okay, thank you.
So the next item that is for consideration today is for a design review application at 241 Sunkiss Lane. And this is project planner.
Okay, thank you. So this project at 241 Sunkiss Lane. It's for a new approximately 4,600 square foot 2-story home. It meets the R110 development standards and is consistent with the design guidelines by minimizing bulk and privacy impacts. 3 public comment letters were received prior to publication of the staff report, 2 in support of the project and 1 opposed. Another public comment letter was received earlier today opposed to the project. So in addition to the standard conditions of approval, recommended conditions are included in the staff report requiring minor changes to the site improvements and landscaping for consistency within the plans, as well as the municipal code, as well as the replacement trees for previously removed trees. And to clarify, so the trees need to be removed or to be replaced as specified by the approved tree removal permits, for which there was a discrepancy between the city records. So what was posted at the property is what would apply. So the replacement requirement is anywhere from 3 to 6 new trees, depending on the species selected and to be planted in the front yard. In addition, it was pointed out that there is an error on the site survey, and the existing front yard palm tree proposed for removal is in fact a protected tree. And that will necessitate an additional replacement tree in the front yard. So with that, staff recommends finding the project exempt from CEQA and approving the project with 2 modified conditions. 1, plant replacement trees consistent with the approved and posted tree removal permits. And 2, plant 1 additional category 2 tree to replace the existing palm tree in the front yard. And that concludes my presentation and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so I do not have questions of staff. does the applicant want to address any of the potential design characteristics of the actual project proposed, or specifically some of the concerns of the neighbors that I assuming you guys have, obviously been in receipt of some of the comments even prior to today's meeting?
Yes, so thank you. My name is Chris Coomer, and I'm an architect on the project. I'd like to start just simply by thanking Naz for her hard work and guidance. So thank you. And I'd like to share a tiny bit about the development of the design. Upon starting, it became apparent this was a good lot for a two-story development, simply because it's larger than the adjacent lots by quite a bit. So the setbacks would be greater to the existing homes. And then more importantly, there is a two-story structure on this existing lot that's been there for many, many years. Secondly, per the design guidelines, we studied the surrounding homes and incorporated prominent forms into the design. So that began with low horizontal forms, step back second floor, compatible garage. That's why the garage is entered from the side based on the neighbors' homes. The low first floor eaves and also some deep overhangs in the design. Again, picking up on those pieces. And then we worked with the massing in a modern style, as you can see, and that eliminates unnecessary bulk on where bulky attics. So that flat roof form actually serves to diminish the bulk in the mass. You can also see the design includes high quality materials. We've got natural wood and a palette of earth tones and whatnot. Hopefully in a simple and effective composition, again, kind of balanced against sort of simple homes around. Another part of the design, so we took staff's and neighbors' feedback into account and revised the design in many ways. And I'm happy to go through some of the specifics if you're interested. We also added significant screening through the process to the design. So that's a quick summary. I appreciate the time, and I'm available for your questions. I'd like to introduce Namita Kumar, who's the homeowner. She has some remarks as well.
Yeah, no, just wanted to say thank you. The staff has been great, guiding us through this process, helping us navigate all the different steps to get to building. We started meeting the neighbors very early, starting in June, all the way back in June. And so I just wanted to thank everybody for their time, meeting with us, taking the time, giving feedback. So just wanted to say thank you.
So with that, I'm assuming there's some people that are in the chambers that would like to speak on this item. Is that correct? Yes. Okay, so whoever would like to start can start for public comment on this. I'm not sure. I think raise a hand who's here to speak on this item. Just one? Or okay.
We're here, just
Okay.
not speaking,
Okay.
maybe.
All right. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you zoning administrator for giving us this opportunity to share some feedback.
Wait,
So-
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. If you could start with your name. so
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
We are Howard and Sean. First of all, we'd like to welcome Nathan and Saga's family to the neighborhood. Our home shares the backyard fence with 241 Sam Kiss. So we have significant concerns, privacy concerns. The proposed second floor features a floor to ceiling glass door open up to a large size balcony looking directly into our backyard and the master bedroom windows. So when we were first approached about the project, so there's a mention of large windows, but there not anything about balconies. That's when we were very surprised when we were heard later on that there's balconies, and so especially like after we had already raised the privacy concern about those large windows. The question is, why would adding balconies make things any better? So the balcony is more than 12 feet wide, so clearly designed for people to sit around, walk around, look out. So from that balcony, as well as another balcony that facing north, someone would have direct view to the rooms and backyards to multiple Avalon neighbors. So it's kind of simple geometry. So we have the demonstration, simple demonstration that printed out, and everyone please feel free to take a look. So with regards to the landscape, the proposed magnolia little gems are slow growing trees with a 24-inch box. Now typically it's about like 5 to 6 feet tall. So it's fairly the same height as the fence. So how are they going to provide adequate screens and the 2-story house being built in the near future? And the few existing pedosporiums are kind of sparse, and when the other trees are removed, so there will be even less screen coverage. So needless to say, privacy is a very important issue for everyone. Los Altos single-family residential design guidelines clearly address the privacy issue in numerous places. So for example, the section 5.3 is all about privacy. And some example languages here is, orient second-story windows so that their egress is away from neighbors when privacy invasions may result. And the design in such way that sight lines into your neighbors' homes and yards is eliminated. And consider the alternative of using skylights for light and air in order to reduce privacy invasion. The guideline mentioned the role of the city in ensuring the design of new construction considers the privacy of adjacent properties. And we again, of course, appreciate the city providing this platform for affected neighbors. And we sincerely hope the city will decide to prioritize the preservation of neighbors' privacy and deny the building of such balconies or large windows that encroach upon other families' living spaces. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak that's present in the chamber?
Yeah, this is Dave Edgren. I live on North Avalon Drive and my wife is here as well. We have concerns about privacy as well. The older house that was there was built a long time ago, way before any of the houses on North Avalon on that side of the street were built. And so in those days, they could have balconies up there and they look out on the fields and wouldn't be encroaching on anybody's backyard or into their homes. But now that homes are on North Avalon in that location, that rationale for having balconies approved for this project goes away because those balconies now actually become a source for privacy invasion. Also, I would comment on the general appearance of the house. I realize that a lot of work has been done to make it look the way it looks. Unfortunately, the hard lines, the boxy appearance, those are not consistent with the residential guidelines that have been in place for some time. And so we'd like to see two things. One, eliminate the balconies, and two, soften the look of the building such that it has less of a commercial look and more of a residential look. Thank you.
Does the applicant want to respond to anything in regards to some of the design modifications that you guys had made, given some of the specific comments that have been asserted in the chamber?
Yes, thank you. Just some simple things. I think this is a view of from the existing second story to the rear neighbor. And you can see that the home isn't visible currently. Now, this isn't a view from the balcony. Interestingly, this is just a view from the closest point. And so there's currently an existing balcony, which we've been up to and the neighbors were invited to see. And that from that balcony, you can't see into the neighboring residence. Now, the proposal for the new home is to move the balcony back an additional 24 feet. That puts us at 70 feet from the property line with the proposed balcony. And that's almost 90 feet, given the 20-foot setback of the neighboring residence. So that I've done a lot of this over the years, and I don't know what distance is sufficient, but that's the length of my lot, and my home is 100 feet. So it's quite a significant distance away. So that, in addition to the screening that's been proposed along that line, we hope is a sort of satisfactory situation. Again, taking an existing balcony, backing it up 20+ feet and screening it from view. But I understand the concerns. It's always difficult when something changes. The second point, just as we all know in the design guidelines, style is not dictated in town. So unless we're in a historic district, but it's not mandated in town. So I understand the concerns about change in different style. Then, you know, one small thing we did go through as a part of the process, and we can get into this if we'd like, but we eliminated balcony on one side, and we brought plates down, we brought heights down, we went through elimination of windows and various things. I think those were concessions to the design, but hopefully those were working in the right direction as well for the.
So I have a quick question for you and I'm not going to talk about, so everyone understands, my questions right now are not going to be regarding any first story windows at all, as I have zero concern for windows on a first floor that have a maximum plate height of 9.6. There would be zero potential impact, even if I was to consider privacy. I'm more so wanting to hear an explanation or at least verification is that when I'm looking at from finished floor to essentially the plate height for the second story, which you're showing 9.6 essentially by the elevation that I'm looking at for all extensive purposes. The majority of the windows at the second floor are actually oriented high above the finished floor, correct? So there's essentially just natural light. I'm assuming most of you aren't 6'3" or above like me. We're going to stand in your windows peering, looking at your neighbors, and that there are essentially the small balconies that we're talking about that are, but there's already, when I'm looking, so just the public knows is, what I'm looking at in consideration to this is a home that's been built in 1908 on a lot that's almost a half an acre, surrounded by parcels that are 1/4 of an acre or 1/3 of an acre. So I do fundamentally agree with what the project architect has actually asserted about the size and the spatial distance. However, when we're talking about and looking at window design and orientation, and although there are more windows on this project because there's more floor area that's being proposed as it's allowed to be included, the majority of the windows that are actually additional are oriented at such a way that it would take someone that would need to literally be stepping on a step stool or a chair in order to look through those. It's going to be essentially, as in with much modern architecture, it's just for light. However, I do want to ask the question that I'm pretty sure I know the answer. Will not most of your windows receive window treatments, which the city of Los Altos does not permit? So you guys would be doing, I'm assuming, drapes or
Yes.
blinds or something. Okay. So there's also that genuine concern of privacy that I do take into consideration when I'm looking at projects such as this. Because I think we all can admit is especially at nighttime when most people actually have genuine privacy concerns for their own private moments at home, and so that they're not peered in and looking at when lights are on and things of that nature. But people also conversely also want to have the rooms that they are sleeping in to not be impacted by light, whether or not it's natural starlight, daylight, whatever it may or may not be. So, I mean, I think we can all attest to that. So fundamentally, I don't necessarily think that there's not going to be some interior mitigation methods that would be deployed. The last thing that I am going to say, and this is an education component, and I am very well aware of the design guidelines that are in place. However, the design guidelines that are adopted in the city of Los Altos are subjective design standards. This house proposes a single family structure with an attached ADU, does it not? So any structure or housing project that proposes 2 or more units is protected by the Housing Accountability Act of 2017. It also is further protected by SB 330 of 2019. Both two laws protect the applicant as well as the city from any potential application of subjective design standards. So with that being said, the Los Altos design guidelines for single family housing development are null and void. So with that, there is no consideration for community character as that is prohibited by state housing law. And so we have seen overwhelmingly throughout the community is that there is a significant change in what we are seeing in design characteristics, as well as the actual architecture that is being utilized on properties throughout the immediate area. And I think that can be acknowledged just by walking through the neighborhood itself. So with that, I will not take consideration for any specific or prescriptive design requirements for this project. And as such, I am deeming this project approved as proposed. And NAS will provide you with an approval letter, and then you guys can enter into building plan check. I do understand the community's potential concerns for privacy. However, I'm going to say something that I've said at almost every zoning administrator hearing. You want privacy as much as your new neighbors are going to want privacy. And I would really expect and hope that as community members, you would come together and figure out that you maybe have new families that are living or moving in next to you, and that you should all be respectful of each other immediately living adjacent to one another. Landscaping comes and goes, it dies off and everything. So I wouldn't say that that's a privacy security for the community. And for all extents and purposes, the new homeowners of this property very well might want to add landscaping once they've moved in and once they've been able to actually see how they're going to use their yard and their property. So I do think that it's ripe for further discussion. It shouldn't just stop at the design review of a brand new home. And if we're wanting to have a community that integrates and actually is fundamentally a community at heart, you shouldn't be wanting to create a fortress where you are unable to see, communicate, or interact with one another. That actually does fundamentally go against the design principles that have been acknowledged today. So with that, again, the project is deemed approved, and I'm going to move on to the next item.
That was the
Shouldn't there be public record for what we came here to be at restart? Shouldn't it just go in the public record that we can say something?
I just asked if any of you
I
would
have
have.
raised my hand.
Okay.
So did this lady here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I mean, at least it goes in the public record.
Yeah, I mean, it can, yeah, it can go into the public record.
Yeah, I just want to respond to the privacy, the screening. You know, the tree, the picture there is the persimmon tree, one of the, is a persimmon tree will be gone. And most of the screening actually are our screening bushes, which at that time was 12 feet tall. And we need to cut that. We cannot have that, you know, the screening become our burden. But, you know, I welcome our neighbors to build their new home, but the screening should not be transferred to the neighbors. Plus, when I was there, I can see clearly our neighbors' backyard, not bedroom, anything in the backyard. So I feel like, you know, privacy should be an important consideration in any planned design proposal. So that, you know, I sincerely hope city will take that into consideration.
So, Surosh Misuna, 300 Avalon. And welcome to the neighborhood, and, you know, we appreciate the design you've done. I think there is only one thing that most of us are worried about here, which is the floor to ceiling glass door that you have facing the balcony. I mean, the windows, I agree, they're whatever, 6 feet and above. I mean, if there's any way, the big concern is to turn that the door into a big glass window. The only reason to have glass at the bottom is you're going to have straight view into the neighbor. We understand even at the window, you can stand there and look out, but at least the neighbor can see you standing there. This removes the complete privacy issue of could be anywhere in the room, and the neighbors are always feeling like, you know, who's looking. I understand, you know, nice people move in, but people also sell their houses over time. People cut the foliage over time. And the only thing that prevents something is where you don't create a situation in which you're always worried that some neighbor is sitting inside and videotaping you or something. As opposed to someone standing at the window, you would actually see them. So, and as you can tell, this side of Avalon and your side of Sunkist has been until now a predominantly single story, except that house built in 1908. And it hasn't been an issue for the last 35 years for us and our other neighbors that have been here 40 years, not be a big issue. So if you can consider that, I think that's it's the privacy issue. You're fine, at least I'm fine with whatever you want to design or build.
So that is something that you guys, I guess, can neighbor to neighbor. That's something that can be a building modification in the building permit process. And because my decision, I have approved the project. Again, you guys are all going to be living next to each other. There, for all extensive purposes, are some modifications that you maybe could make. I'm assuming you're talking about the glass railing around the perimeter. That's something that if you guys want to talk as, the design professional with your client, to see if that is something that you'd be willing to do, or if there's some specific type of treatment or potential privacy things that you guys can do. But again, in the city, whether or not they have erroneously in the past applied privacy standards, we do not protect private views in the city of Los Altos. We do not have a view protection ordinance. We have design guidelines that can help to direct design in the path of preserving and protecting privacy, but we do not have a view protection ordinance or a privacy ordinance that is enforceable. And so I do, again, understand the concerns for potential privacy issues in the future for the adjacent neighbors. However, privacy is a two-way street. And so the burden of privacy should remain with both and not just the new person that decides to build a brand new home. Because again, this two-story home, it is a two-story home. And this is not in a single story overlay. So again, I think this conversation is more ripe for continued conversation with each other, neighbor to neighbor. However, the project is deemed approved as proposed. And so item number 4 is for a property at 370 Chancel Avenue. It's with project planner Gallegos.
So the project before you is a design review application for the construction of a 246 square foot first story and 790 square foot second story to the existing one-story house. Current residence has a ranch style architectural style. The proposed addition seeks to preserve that style and also preserves the existing traditional brick and stucco siding. Staff does believe the project aligns with the R110 district standards and does recommend approval of the project. This concludes staff's presentation. Is there any questions?
There are no questions. As the project applicant, do you have anything you'd like to?
Gratitude. Super collaborative. In fact, Nick, you don't know this. I cold called you a year ago when we were starting and you picked up the phone and you helped me out then. So that's how the journey starts. So it's good to like put a face to the name. But yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, glad to help. So there's no one in the chamber, so there is no public comment on this item. I do not have any questions of staff as I've already seen the project proposal as presented. And so with that, the project is approved as presented today. And we will provide you with an approval letter so you can enter into building plan check. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
So with that, at 4:37, the zoning administrator hearing on November 15th is adjourned. Thank you.